How do you know that evolution is our origin?
There are multiple fields that show that cohere into the same story. We've got lots of fossils. We've got lots of DNA evidence now. There are similarities in bone structure that show this, and we can also see similar commonalities in DNA now at the micro level.
What has proved to you on a deep level that you have evolved from another animal? What proves that to you specifically?
Well, to me specifically, is I'm not an evolutionary science, so I adopt the consensus of opinion of educated people in whatever field. So the opinion of 90+% of people in those fields are that evolution is a thing, and it's the cornerstone of biology. If you take evolution out of our knowledge base, you lose a ton of other fields of science.
Like what?
Well, geez, neurology, how metabolism happens. So there's things with chemical processes and making energy and stuff like that. Nutrition, how the planet has developed over time in relation to having these animals at various times, things like that. I mean, everything in an ecology is going to affect the local ecology and ultimately the planet to some degree. The geology of the Earth, because various times and various things have changed what's on the surface of the planet. For example, all the coal that has developed from dinosaur-ish days about 250 million years ago. There's lots of examples like that. Do you have a background in science, or what's your position?
My position? Well, the world is constantly giving us information, but not all information is good information. And we constantly take that in. We constantly absorb everything that we see. But you got to really sit down with yourself, and you got to understand that and I'm not saying you, but one has to sit down and they must understand that one knows nothing about anything, and they only know what they're told. And it doesn't make what they're told false, but they can't prove what they're told is also true.
Do you have a problem trusting the opinion of educated, say in this case, biologists?
No, I don't have an issue trusting them, but I can't claim I know something if it's the opinion of another and I simply just trust their opinion.
Yeah.
I can't regurgitate something and say that I know because I don't.
Right. I mean, you're right in that sense, because I mean that's how we learn. But none of us can know anything except that our minds exist, right? At a really foundational level. So almost everything we get comes in through our senses one way or another, and a lot of the stuff that comes in is education, which is obviously it's taught by other people, and it's usually gained by previous generations and other people doing experiments and in science and things like that. But there seems to be a good track history of things being reliably passed from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And then being built upon.
Like what?
Well, I mean, you could take us back to the earliest days of like the hunter-gatherers. I mean, you'd learn from your parents what's a good way to hunt, what's good to eat, what's good to not eat.
How do we know they existed?
Well, we've got quite a few fossils at this point.
We have information that points to fossils and other things of their existence. Yeah, we do have information that points to their existence, but how do we know they existed? We don't.
How do we know they existed? The vast collection of everything all put together, we know. Why are you so doubtful? I mean, where is your foundational skeptic level?
It starts at the source. It's not the information. It's the source.
What's the source?
Exactly. That's the question that we all should be asking. Where does my information come from? What source? And how do I know that the source I'm checking is reliable? So can I truly prove a source's reliability?
But I'm asking you as an individual, what is the basement for you? What is the foundational thing that you know that you start from?
Well, truth.
Truth exists independent of you and I, right?
Yeah,
truth exists whether or not we know it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, there are certain truths that can be proved by one, and then there are others that can't. And I just leave it up to me simply not knowing something rather than to assume that I do know it, even though it's just regurgitated information. And that's something that I'm so heavy on these days, because I see that people constantly regurgitate information and they constantly say things they heard and they constantly do things in the name of good, but they don't truly actually know what that is because they're too busy following the opinions of others.
Well, but you got to follow something. I mean, it's one thing to say that, you know, I heard it on a live or a YouTube or a meme or something. It's another thing to say, here's a study from a university on how plant genes work or something like that. There's different levels of quality of sources too, right?
How reliable are those sources, and can you verify the reliability?
You verify them by their past history of being successful and productive. I mean, to make things, you know, the engineer who came up with this is based on probably 200 years of history of electronics and electromagnetism and things like that, and conductivity that somebody discovered in certain metals versus the lack of conductivity in the plastics that were invented. I mean, all this information comes from previous generations. And like I say, just the sheer fact that it's a functional working thing tells you, it indicates that they knew what they were doing because the thing works. I mean, how reliable is it that we have a report where, you know, a rocket engine came back down and was captured by the tower it was launched from? That's pretty reliable. We've got a company who made it. We've got people who designed it. We've got video evidence of it coming down. That's pretty reliable, as opposed to somebody just posting that I saw this thing without telling us some of the sources, or without us knowing that there actually is a SpaceX program that has been making progress toward this particular end and things like this.
Yeah, of course. As I said before, there is good information, but not all information is good information.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
You know what I'm saying? You got to eat the meat and spit out the bones.
Where do you draw the line? How do you figure out what's reliable, what's not?
Honestly, common sense. Things that are honestly incomprehensible. Things that are so way out of this time that you know that you can't find it. Things like that is just like, all right, certain things we'll just never know. And that's where acceptance comes in. But there are other things that if you look deep enough within the world and then you connect the dots and you have some good, reliable sources and you know what you're looking for exactly, you'll find it.
How do you know that? I mean, that seems to be a little bit of an overreach.
Well, I know that from my own personal experiences.
So you're confident of the things that you have personally learned?
No, I'm confident of the fact that if I truly do seek out something that is within my reach, then I'll be able to grasp it.
What if you figure out it's not in your reach?
Then I accept that.
So that's accepting and I don't know. It doesn't mean that it will never be in your reach or that it's unreachable. I mean, that's probably taking it too far, I would say. I mean, you know, unless you're like before college versus after college or something like that, right? If I gave you like 10 books on English literature, you're going to know more about what's in those books after you read them than before. So obviously if you took the time to learn something or learn a new skill, if I asked you how to install a bathroom shower or something like that and gave you a year to study it and come back and practice it, then you'll know it down the road, but you don't know it now. So it doesn't mean it's unreachable.
Yeah, but some things are. Some things are.
Some things seem to be, yeah. I don't think we'll ever find out, at least not in my lifetime for sure, what caused the universe to begin. I don't know if we're gonna be able to reach other stars. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know. You're in a good position to say that you're acknowledging your limitations. All of us have limitations, right? Humans have limitations too, even with the collective knowledge that we have to work with. You know, it's going to be important that we learn which information sources to trust, because there's a lot of manipulation and propaganda going on, and we're probably going to see a lot of that going forward too, especially in the era of AI and video fakes.
Indeed.